Welcome to a special edition of Mr. Jacob Reads. Today, I'll be reading, or starting to read, Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman, my all-time favorite author. This is illustrated by Scotty Young. This is a pretty big book compared to the picture books we usually read. So, we're going to split this into a few sections. Fortunately, the Milk. He's a lot of other great books. Neil Gaiman's a fantastic author. You should check him out sometime. Here we go. There was only orange juice in the fridge. Nothing else that you could put on cereal. Unless you think that ketchup or mayonnaise or pickle juice would be nice on your Tostios, which I do not. And neither did my little sister, although she has eaten some pretty weird things in her day, like mushrooms and chocolate. Since she did not actually like eating them, and I had not actually told her that there were mushrooms inside the chocolate, it was an experiment. No milk, said my sister. Nope, I said, looking behind the jam in the fridge, just in case. None at all. Our mom had gone off to a conference. She was presenting a paper on lizards. Before she went, she reminded us of the important things that had to happen while she was away. My dad was reading the paper. I do not think he pays a lot of attention to the world while he is reading the paper. Did you hear me? Asked my mom, who was suspicious. What did I say? Do not forget to take the kids to orchestra practice on Saturday. It's violin on Wednesday night. You've frozen a dinner for each night you're away and labeled them. The spare house key is with the Nicholsons. The plumber will be here on Monday morning, and do not use or flush the upstairs toilet until he's been. Feed the goldfish. You love us, and you'll be back on Thursday, said my father. I think my mom was surprised. Yes, that's right, she said. She kissed us all. Then she said, oh, and we're almost out of milk. You need to pick some up. After she went away, my dad had a cup of tea. There was still some milk left. We defrosted meal number 1, but we made a bit of a mess of things, so we went to the Indian restaurant. Before we went to sleep, Dad made us mugs of hot chocolate to make up for the whole missing of Mom. That was last night. Okay, what's going to happen? Now Dad came in. Eat your cereal, he said. Remember, it's orchestra practice this afternoon. We can't eat our cereal, said my sister, sadly. I don't see why not, said my father. We've got plenty of cereal. There's Tostios and there's muesli. We have bowls, we have spoons. Spoons are excellent. Sort of like forks, only not as stabby. No milk, I said. No milk, said my sister. I watched my dad think about this. He looked like he was going to suggest that we have something for breakfast that you do not need milk for, like sausages. But then he looked like he remembered that without milk, he couldn't have his tea. He had his no tea face. You poor children, he said. I will walk down to the shop on the corner. I will get milk. Thank you, said my sister. Not the fat-free kind, I told him. That stuff tastes like water. Right, said my dad. Not the fat-free kind. He went out. I poured some Tostios into a bowl. I stared at them. I waited. How boring. How long has he been? Asked my sister. Ages, I said. I thought so, said my little sister. We drank orange juice. My sister practiced her violin. I suggested that she stop playing her violin, and she did. My sister made faces at me. How long has it been now? She asked. Ages and ages, I told her. What happens if he never comes back? She asked. I suppose we eat the pickles, I said. You can't eat pickles for breakfast, said my sister, and I don't like pickles at any time. What if something awful has happened to him? Mum would blame us. I suspect he just ran into one of his friends at the corner shop, I said, and they got talking and he lost track of time. I ate a dry Tostio as an experiment. It was sort of okay, but not as good as in milk. There was a thump and a bang at the front door, and my father came in. "Where have you been all this time?" asked my sister. "Ah," said my father. Yes, well, funny you should ask me that. You ran into someone you knew," I said, "and you lost track of time." "I bought the milk," said my father, "and I did indeed say a brief hello to Mr. Ronson from over the road, who was buying a paper. I walked out of the corner shop and heard something odd that seemed to be coming from above me. It was a noise like this: thum, thum. I looked up and saw a huge silver disc hovering in the air above Marshall Road. "Hello," I said to myself. "That's not something you see every day." And then something odd happened. "That wasn't odd?" I asked. "Well, something odder," said my father. The odd thing was that a beam of light that came out of the disc, a glittery, shimmery beam of light that was visible even in daytime. And the next thing I saw, I was being sucked up into the disc. Fortunately, I had put the milk into my coat pocket. The deck of the disc was metal. It was as big as a playing field, or bigger. There he goes. "We have come to your planet from a world very far away," said the people in the disc. I call them people, but they were a bit green and rather globby and looked very grumpy indeed. "Now, as a representative of your species, we demand that you give us ownership of the whole planet. We are going to remodel it." "I jolly well won't," I said. "Then," it said, "we will bring all your enemies here and have them make you miserable until you agree to sign the planet over to us." I was going to point out to them that I didn't have any enemies when I noticed a large metal door with "Emergency exit, do not open for any reason, this means you" on it. I opened the door. "Don't do that," said a green globby person. "You'll let the space-time continuum in." But it was too late. I had already pushed open the door. I jumped. I was falling! Fortunately, I had kept tight hold of the milk. I didn't lose it. "What was that?" said a woman's voice. "A big fish? A mermaid? Or was it a spy?" I wanted to say that it wasn't any of those things, but my mouth was full of seawater. I felt myself being hauled up onto the deck of a little ship. There were a number of men and a woman on the deck, and they all looked very cross. "Who be ye, landlubber?" said the woman, who had a big hat on her head and a parrot on her shoulder. "He's a spy, a walrus in a coat, a new kind of mermaid with legs," said one of the men. "What are you doing here?" asked the woman. "Well," I said, "I just set out to the corner shop for some milk for my children's breakfast and for my tea. The next thing I knew—" "He's lying, your majesty!" She pulled out her cutlass. "You dare lie to the queen of the pirates?" Fortunately, I had kept tight hold of the milk, and now I pointed to it. If I did not go to the corner shop to fetch the milk, I asked them, then where did this milk come from? At this the pirates were completely speechless. "Now," I said, "if you could let me off somewhere near to my destination, I would be very much obliged to you." "And where would that happen to be?" said the Queen of the Pirates. "On the corner of Marshall Road and Fletcher Lane," I said. "My children are waiting there for my breakfast." "You're on a pirate ship now, my fine bucko," said the Pirate Queen, "and you don't get dropped off anywhere. There are only two choices. You can join my pirate crew, or refuse to join, and we will slit your cowardly throat, and you will go to the bottom of the sea, where you will feed the fishes." "What about walking the plank?" I asked. "Never heard of it," said the pirates. "Walking the plank," I said, "is what proper pirates do. Look, I'll show you." "Do you have a plank anywhere?" It took some looking, but we found a plank, and I showed the pirates where to put it. We discussed nailing it down, but the Pirate Queen decided it was safer just to have the two fattest pirates sit on the end of it. "Why exactly do you want to walk the plank?" asked the Pirate Queen. I edged out onto the plank. The blue Caribbean waters splashed gently beneath me. "Well," I said, "I've seen lots of stories with pirates in them, and it seems to me that if I'm going to be rescued—" At this the pirates started to laugh so hard their stomachs wobbled, and the parrot took off into the air in amazement. "Rescue?" they said. "There's no rescue out here. We're in the middle of the sea." Nevertheless, I told him, if you are going to be rescued, it will always be while walking the plank. Which we don't do, said the Pirate Queen. Here, have a Spanish doubloon, and come and join us in our piratical adventures. It's the 18th century, she added, and there's always room for a bright, enthusiastic pirate. I caught the doubloon. I almost wish that I could, I told her, but I have children, and they need their breakfast. Then you must die! Walk the plank! I edged out to the end of the plank. Sharks were circling. So were piranhas. And this is where I interrupted my dad for the first time. Hang on, I said. Piranhas are a freshwater fish. What were they doing in the sea? You're right, said my father. The piranhas were later. Right. So, I was out at the end of the plank, facing certain death, when a rope ladder hit my shoulder, and a deep, booming voice shouted, Quickly, climb up the rope ladder! And this is where part 1 ends. Join us for part 2.